time for Lifestyle Daily, where we were talking about budgeting, like I rightly said. And MFA, who do we have?
Because so this morning we are joined by Jemima Ochiwa Tabiru. She is a financial coach, a chartered accountant with over 12 years finance working experience. She's also known as the Finance Gem, which is an initiative to provide financial knowledge to entrepreneurs and individuals. Hi, Jemima. Good morning.
Hi, Empa. Hi, Godwin. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. So this morning I was thinking, well, in this economy, is it a good time to even want to talk about budgeting?
Thanks, Empa. Let me take this opportunity to say a good morning to Max 24 audience as well. Yes, definitely, in this time and this economy, this is the right time for us to budget. And one will ask, why budgeting? Because we know that when we budget is just like a plan. And in this type of economy, if you don't have any plan, how are you going to manage? How are you going to meet your expenses? Are your income also coming in as well? So this is the right time that we need to really look at our personal budgeting.
And for those who may not understand, what really, is there a technical aspect of budgeting? What is budgeting?
Thanks. Budgeting is just as simple as a plan. So for today, you have your plan that you are going to do. So in the same way, when it comes to your finances, you need to put together these plans into monetary terms or figures. And that's where we have the budgeting coming through. So actually, budgeting has to do with the whole process. So right from the preparation, your implementation, and how you are able to even review it. And one thing that you should notice, when you do a proper budgeting, the output is what we call a budget. So the budget is like the plan you come out with. Then the budgeting is the process that you go through. Not any technical process, just like how you're able to plan your day, you can also plan your budgets.
Jemima, are budgets really feasible? To be honest, I'm saying this because I'm using myself as an example. I have tried several times, Jemima. I've downloaded apps, I have watched YouTube videos on how to budget. I just realized that I keep falling short of it. So can someone really plan their finances in such a way that every day this is an amount I'm going to spend and I'm not going to go beyond that? Is it really feasible?
Very feasible. And in my role as a financial coach, we are all not there yet. We all start from somewhere. And one thing I keep telling people is, if you don't have a plan, it's like you are planning to fail. So why don't you plan rather so that you prevent any failure? And one thing you must know is it is not too technical. It's not cast in stones. So when I do coaching, what I tell my audiences, start with a simple plan that works for you. So even for budgeting tools, I say your notebook and your pen is a budgeting tool. Just start by listing what are your sources of income. Quite easy. As a salary worker, what are your income? Do you get money from other sources? Do you have a side business? You list it. Then now you come to your expenses. You know how, and what we say is what works for you. Somebody has a daily budget which works because that's what you can work with. Somebody works with a weekly budget. Somebody has a monthly budget because his income comes at a month. And even for some people, they are able to work for a longer period, which is like a whole year. And that is what works for them. And for your budget to be very visible, you know, in budgeting, we have forecasts or estimates. We try to make it a little realistic. So for instance, when you are looking at your cost for the month, let's say your fuel that you are going to use for the month. Okay, I'm going to use 10% of my fuel, my income for fuel for the month. Then you ask yourself, what estimate are you using for the cost of a liter or the cost of your transportation? Then one thing we say is for your budget to be visible, constantly review it. It is not cast in stones. It is not straight. So when you start and you see that the budget is, you are really always going above it, you come back and revise it. It is flexible. Let's start from where we are. Your simple notebook and your pen, a portable notebook that you can even put in your budget, in your pocket, is a budgeting tool.
Okay. And so would you say that the type of budgeting a middle class income earner would do is different from what a person who has just begun earning, or the pointers are the same once there's budgeting?
Yes, the pointers are the same. So I have this popular tip that I say that 1,000 CD budget starts with 1 pesewa. So whatever your income is, you need to start budgeting from somewhere. And the parameters, like I said, the estimates are mostly in percentages. So definitely, depending on your income, if you are using 20% on food, on groceries, you are using 10% on transportation, you are saving 10%. And in most cases, what shows out our budgets mostly comes from what we call emergencies or contingencies. How well are we inputting this into our budget? Because most of the things that shows off your budget comes in as emergency. And even when you look at the real definition of emergencies, sometimes the things are not emergency. Definitely, you know that you go to work, you take transport. So budget enough. So as you get more realistic into how things are, then it makes your budget very helpful and more practical.
Again, let's retrace the conversation of budgeting in this very hard time. It's not just that things are hard, but things also, prices of things have really been changing. It's fluctuating. Today, it is like this tomorrow. But you have a budget. And so how can you stay in your budget when today a tin of milk is this, but the next minute is a different price?
Thank you. So we all admit that budgets are estimates and they are plans. So it could be that as at last month, when you bought your tin of milk, it was 2 Ghana cedi per day. So what we do in budgeting is to estimate that if prices ideally should go up by 10%. So you have a buffer. So you don't strictly go by, this is the price I bought it, or this is the current price. So for you to survive in times like this, for the prices that you are putting into your budget, put in a percentage price increase or a percentage increase. Then what we also advise is, we know inflation had really become a talk in these days, especially not just in Ghana, but across the world, in countries that were not even experiencing inflation are also influencing that. So in planning, normally what we say is put an estimate, and that could be what you call as your price increases. And once you start putting these realistic figures there, with time, you see that your budget is getting closer to what you had anticipated. What we say is start now. We are not perfect yet, but our budget will get better.
How much percentage should you put aside for emergencies? You talked about the fact that budgeting cuts across from no matter how much your income is, but how much percentage should every person, allocate for emergencies?
Ideally, it should be between 10% and let's say 20%, depending on your lifestyle. In budgeting, don't make it look like a punishment, and that's where we mostly get people going off their budget. Somebody starts and say that my emergency is 50% of my income. Definitely, you wouldn't meet it. And aside emergencies, we should also put savings. Because sometimes we confuse emergencies with savings. So when emergencies comes in, you always end up taking your savings. Okay. But please let's have a cut between your savings and your emergency fund.
Okay.
Okay, Jemima, I will ask you to help us break down, say an amount. We'll pick an amount, and then you help us break it down on what we should budget on, especially in these times. But I'm curious to know if there are people out there like me. What are the challenges, the hindrances people face when it comes to accurately planning a budget?
Okay, so mostly the challenges people say go through is budgeting is time consuming, but that is not the case. It is not time consuming. You are planning your own budget, so it should be something that is simple. And what I always say, sometimes distinguishing between what expense is and what income is becomes a challenge. So in simple terms, income is what increases your wallet. If you're a guy, or for ladies, what increases your purse. Then expenses is something that reduces it. So when you have this as your basic understanding, you realize that definitely you are touring all your wallets because all your expenses are coming in, but what about the income? And one thing you notice is once you start budgeting, you realize that, wow, do I have only one source of income? Then that is where I need to tackle. I need to look for other constant fine. Somebody will budget and say that I have a percentage for gifts or constituencies. Yes, that's when it comes in. Then in most cases, we do a lot of impulse expenses, which end up showing our budget. And when you look at some of these expenses, they are really not impulse. You know that you need to go to work, you need transportation. So budget it so that you can move on. So normally when you will look at your income, like we have said, you look at your sources. So salary, do you have other income that you need to look at? Then when you come to the expense bracket, it's quite simple. Definitely we all eat. So your food and your groceries also come. You know, we move around, so your transportation, if you have a car, you put your fuel. Definitely we've spoken about savings and emergency fund as well. Then utilities. You know, definitely you have electricity, water, and more frequently now we use a lot of data and internet. And in some cases too, you might have financial goals. So for instance, this year you want to go back to school. How much are you saving towards your education? And even for PEP, how much are you planning to pay your child's school fees? So normally the budget, you can even break it down into a quarter or a half year. You know that for this month, I cannot pay all my fees. Can I request for an installment? So you keep planning. So what I tell people is, once you start budgeting, you realize that you have more than enough. And once you have a budget, it reduces some of the stress that these economic impacts have on you because you have a plan. Sometimes you do your budget and you realize that for this year, definitely, I cannot go back to school. So why don't I plan and save it for next year? Is that not a stress reliever than starting school and at somewhere?
That must be. Okay, so let's practicalize it. I am a NSS personnel. I work at MX24. I live at La Paz, and then I earn a little over 500. I'll say 550 Ghana cedis. I am a girl and I buy sanitary towels. I buy cosmetics. I have cravings. I like both fruits with like chocolate
with
inside,
Baileys.
Oreos with Baileys and all of that inside. Yeah, my parents do not live here, so I call them very often. You know, I live in a small room and I pay rent also. I buy electricity and I earn 550. Don't forget my cravings. Please help me budget.
Thanks, MFA. It's good you've given me, normally in budgeting, it's good you know the lifestyle of the person, the age, you've given me the income, yes. So you have 500. Ideally, does your parents send you money?
No,
is it constant?
Dabida.
Okay. And it's clear, your income is 500. Then when we come to expenses, when you go to work, do you have free lunch or you have to cater for your lunch as well?
Sometimes the CEO is kind. She buys me lunch every now and then. Sometimes, but I can't plan my life around it.
Then you need to budget for your lunch on a daily basis,
Okay.
as well as your supper when you come home as well. So looking at this, ideally like 30% should be going into your food and your groceries. So here, groceries, ladies, you can add our cosmetics, your sweets that you want to add as well. So it depends. For an NSS, you don't have a lot of utilities that you are paying. And even for your rent, ideally you would have paid for a period of, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, or are you paying on a monthly basis? So it's quite simple. You go into the necessities. And here let's look at, you need to distinguish between what are your wants and what are your needs. Very critical. Some things are nice to have with, but for some, you cannot survive it. So for instance, as an NSN, your food is very critical, your transportation, since you need to report to work, and even to some extent, your investment in clothing. You had just moved from school and had ended into the corporate world. You cannot buy everything at a go. So you can say that for every month, I'll buy one dress. So you need to put that into, and definitely you need to save. a lot of uncertainty. You don't know what will happen after service. You need to get a buffer or a money that you can depend on whilst you are waiting to get a permanent job, or even if you need to visit your parents, you need to put aside some money. Then definitely we come to the emergency fund. What if something happens today and you are not well? How are you able to finance for your medicals? Are you always going to call your parents? So you see that the buckets are simple. Your income is your NSS income. Then we come to your expenses. We've mentioned food. We've mentioned your transportation. We've mentioned your utilities. We've mentioned your emergency. These are simple. So if you attach 30% to food, you have 70% left. Definitely transportation is quite expensive now. So let's say 30% goes into your transportation. So you have 60%, you have 40%. Then you can flexibly fix it into the other bracket. If this month you cannot buy something, you can move it to the other month as well. And for MFR, the cravings that you have, you might be surprised that you say, okay, why don't I go to YouTube and learn how to make these things on my own? So you buy the ingredients and you make it, and you realize that it's even cheaper than if you buy them on a daily basis. Then you see that your finances in shape.
Okay. All right, Mr. Man here is not a NSS personnel. He works and earns a regular income. Could you tell Jen how much you earn, and let's draw your budget for you? Let's draw a budget for this man, because he clearly looks like he's struggling. He said it earlier.
Is, okay, so no, this is not my income, of course not. But let's say you're earning. Now, before that, let me ask you, Jemima, how is it possible that a person can survive on, say, the same person can survive on, say, 5,000 cedis a month, and can also survive on 1,000 cedis a month? You know it's possible?
Yeah.
Because you start out and you have 1,000 cedis and you're able to live perfectly. You're buying food, you're buying utility, you're doing all that. And then you get to 5K and you realize that you're still expending that same amount and you're still fulfilling all those. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to ask. It's like how do I put it?
She does. She understands. Jen, you understand? Right?
Yeah, mostly what happens is we don't plan or we don't budget before the income comes. So when it comes, you end up spending it before you realize that, wow. But if your income level is moving from 1,000 to 5,000, what plan or budget have you put in place? Okay, my lifestyle should change a little, but does it mean I can save 2,000 out of this? So instead of jumping from 1,000 to a 5,000 expenditure in a month, can I move to a 3,000 or even a 2,000? So once you put that plan in place, the money comes and you'll be surprised. And sometimes you end up even saving more when you are even on a less income. Let's start with the budget. Then you realize it. So definitely what I do in coaching, what I tell people is plan before even your income comes. Some people say, oh, I'm not so sure, so let the money come. I tell you, MFA, when the money comes, your mind goes off and new things which you don't even have in mind ends up taking your money. So let's start with the budget. Then we will get there.
Okay, before you go, let's open the phone lines at some point. You can also send us a message about how much you earn. How have you been budgeting? Has it been working for you, or do you want new technique? This is free consultation. If you went behind us, we'll charge you. So please call us, and then let's help you. But Godwin, tell us the number to call.
020-473-8481, 020-473-8481, or 055-033-1511 are the numbers to call us right now and ask Jemima your questions. But Jemima, let me take you back to what MFA said about being an NSS personnel earning 550 Ghana cedis. And I'm thinking, wow, how is anybody surviving on that amount? So I want to find out from you if budgeting is able to help me make an informed decision on whether or not a certain place I'm working is conducive for my survival. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Because when I budget, I realize that, okay, I'm spending almost 250 Ghana cedis on transportation, but I have to go to work. Going in and out Monday to Friday for a month, that's going to cost me like 250 Ghana cedis. And then my feeding every day, even if I eat once a day, let's say I spend 8 cedis to 10 cedis a day. Wow, in this Ghana.
But could you eat once a day? Realistic budgeting. Did you not learn
possible.
from Jim?
It's possible
Said realistic budgeting.
So what, you can't eat once a day?
No, are you
Someone
on a
can.
diet or something?
No, because of your money. So Jemima, say that I realized that this 550 Ghana cedis won't help me from that La Paz to East Legon where I'm working, food, utility and all that. Is budget able to help me say that, okay, then I won't do this at all, I won't do this NSS or I won't do this job at all?
You see, when we start with budgeting, you look at your sources of income. So definitely when you see that your income is coming from just NSS, what are other means of supplementing your expenses? Now we have a lot of online businesses, a lot of people even start when they are in school before they go for their national service. Even during your national service, can I invest 200 Ghana cedi into some small business? Is it a pastry business you want to do? Is it something you want to sell online to supplement it? You'll be surprised that this 500 Ghana cedi you are mentioning is the salary of a worker who has wife and children but is still able to survive. And what I can say is your national service is a preparation for your future job. So even though now it might not be enough, what you can also do is to have discussion with your parents if they could support you. Because once you finish your service and you're able to work well, you are definitely gathering some experiences that will help you get your next job. So remember we mentioned in budgeting, we asked what are your financial goals? What are your priorities? So once you are budgeting, know that, okay, my priority now is not to get big money in my pocket. I'm a national service person, but I want to get a job. I want to get that training that will make me sellable once I finish my national service. So for instance, the 500 is not enough. Have you considered getting other sources of income? Have you considered discussing it with your parents or your guardians to see how they can support you for now? Then one thing is you should also discipline yourself. If you are dependent on someone, you should just stick to it. And you'll be surprised that once you're able to even present a budget to your parents for support, they will even be willing, wow, my child has showed a level of maturity and is willing to even plan his expenses, and people will support you. But you go in to ask money and they ask, what do you use your money for? And you stand there to look at them, then it's like, wow, then you really don't deserve the money that you are going to ask for. Okay. So it's very possible. And even with that 500, you can even save, even if it is 10 cedis or 50 cedis a month.
Interesting.
Okay.
Let's go on the phone line and talk to our very wonderful Alberta in Tadi. Alberta, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you, Alberta. What question do you have for Jemima?
Oh, I don't really have a question. I think I want to contribute.
Okay.
About the NSS.
Okay.
Budgeting. I remember when I was doing my service, that was when it dawned on me that I'll be done very soon, and what if where I was doing the service weren't willing to retain us? So I thought of doing something afterwards, and I was renting, I was paying my bills all from my NSS and the amount I was getting from NSS, and so I was able to plan and think of enrolling into a school where I could get educated as to how to speak and all of that. So I can attest to the fact that if you sit down and plan well, you will be amazed as to how you will be able to do a lot of things with a little money that comes. So that's the reason I want to.
Oh, thank you very much for that contribution, Alberta.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add something to what our caller said? I remember back then when I was in my national service, half of my allowance was going into the writing of my professional exams. So virtually everything I used to write my professional exams. So by the time I was done, I was almost done with my professional exams. And that is an investment into my future.
Oh, amazing.
That's really good to know. We will go for a Vox Pulse, and when we come back, NB in Koforidua would like that you help him budget 1,300, and he's got a wife and 2 kids. And he needs help. He says he lives in Koforidua, and everything there is expensive. However, we went on the street and then we went to talk to people about how or what they do to budget. Let's watch.
I take 800.
It's not up to 2,000.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do take salary. That was then, but now I'm doing my own PTC.
In a month, I get more than 1,000 out of it.
So out of the 800, I decided that maybe every month I will spend 300 and save 500 for a purpose.
Kids get what they want. You pay their school fees. You make sure you put something aside in case there's some hospital, whatever it is, then you take care of it. Yeah.
I'm a single mother, and I have a son at university. So at least end of the month, all the money goes there. So you can't leave some, and even the one that you leave, you have to use it to eat.
So in a day, sometimes they come, I pay 25 cedis. So in a month, that will be 750. So I have things I do with the monies all.
You have to plan. As times goes by, you just plan for your life. You don't know what is ahead of you. So you just have to be planning, put some down and know what you are taking a day, what you are eating. At least nobody knows tomorrow. So you have to plan for the future.
I'll convince the person to save a little from what he or she is doing, so that at the end of the day, he may also have money to do something, or in case of emergency or anything, the person will be able to solve him or herself out of it without going to anybody to borrow money.
The government have to do something about it. Though we are in the private sector, but if there are good policies out there, I think everybody... No, budgeting, that one is your personal issue. But it's about, yes, of course. Yes, of course. Because if you can budget and do everything well, majority, it depends on the money that comes to your pocket. Yeah.
Okay, guys, welcome back. So that's the word on the street on how they've been budgeting. Abajem, hi, if you're still there, the young man who wants us to help him budget 1,300 with a wife and 2 kids. And also, one person got to say that I am doing my national service, a midwife, for the past 9 months without a peswa. I am renting, I go to work and also pay for a fare. My both parents are also sick. Our facility too is not helping. And it's really sad. These are real life stories.
Wow.
Let's deal with Koforidia first before we deal with the midwife.
This is serious.
Okay, thanks, MFA. So the first thing I would like to know in budgeting, we do some assumptions. So we assume that the 1,300 is the total income he earns. So is it coming only from salary? That's other sources of income. That's the first thing. Then as a family person, food is very critical, food and other groceries, so he could assign 30% to that. Then we come to another key area that has to do with the education of his children. And in budgeting, like when you get there, then sometimes you realize that your kids are even in schools you cannot afford. Because if you have a budget that your kids' fees is taking about 50% of it, how are you the rest of you going to survive with the 50%? So these are some of the decisions which you wouldn't have taken unless you had budgeted and you see this. So ideally, your school fees should be between 10 to 20%. And this is he spreading the school fees. So you don't wait till end of the term when they're about to write exams, then you are forced to virtually use all your salary to pay your children's fees. No. Why don't you? And even what we encourage is now that kids are on vacation, still pay their school fees, even if it's a little, so that you get that installment. And once you are done, you can even share that plan with the school authorities for them to agree. Then transportation, definitely the family will move around. For the parents who will be going to work, for the kids, if they also work or they take transportation, you could assign 10% to it. Then definitely utilities. Here we are referring to the electricity, the water, if you have internet or any other things, or fuel. That one could also take 10%. Then we most importantly, I have to mention this, put aside your savings and your emergency fund before you start with the other expenses, ideally 10%. As a family person, you know these kids, you don't know what will happen. One can get sick, something can come up, there's a book they need to buy, there's an excursion they need to go. So these are some of the funds that you would have to fall on. And what I tell people is once you budget, try to put in controls. In simple terms, what are controls? Somebody would say that for the food money for the man, I'll leave it with my wife. If it's with me, I will end up spending it. Leave it there. Your emergency and savings funds, where are you putting it? Somebody will say, I'm putting my savings on my mobile money wallet. How accessible it is. So for some, they'll say, okay, I'll put it in an account where even the branch is not close to my house. I don't have an ATM, so I have to even travel there. So these are ways of securing these emergency funds and this savings fund. So you see that his budget is simple: food, school, utility, rent, emergency, and savings. And this is something he could just scribble out in a book or a small paper, put it in his pocket. Then once the actuals come in, you write it by it. Then if there's any deviation, so for instance, you wanted to spend 1,003, that's what you earn. You did the budget is 1,005. Wow, which expenses can I move to other months? Then also it helps you to also see your pattern. So this month we spend 30% on food. Next month we are moving to 40%. What is causing it? The kids could be on vacation now, so they are home and eating a lot. And it helps you to also plan for the subsequent months. And that's where, like you told Godwin, you are being more realistic. So once you start budget, you see that your budget starts becoming more realistic. So this guy, these are the percentages. He applies it on his 1,300. And you see that it takes out a lot of stress on him than having so much crumbled in your head that I have so much to pay, I have so much to pay. Once you put it on paper, it takes away the stress.
You have a caller?
Okay, we had a caller. I'm not sure if the caller is
she's still on.
Yeah.
Hello, now. All right, now if you could call us back, we'll be very grateful. Very, very grateful. Do you want to?
Yes, so there was a question that came. Ahmed Abu from Techiman was asking, what if you had borrowed money from somebody, or essentially you owe somebody, and then your money comes, your salary comes, and you have to pay out of that money that you have? How much do you have to even? How do you budget with somebody that you owe? Which means you keep owing.
Do you budget on the net or the gross?
Yeah. So Jen, please help us.
Oh, thanks, everybody. These are interesting times. It depends on where he's getting the loan from. If it's from a financial institution, it's cast in stones, and you have to. So what you do is, even before going for that loan, what were the payment terms? You know that your salary is month, yes. So when you start budgeting, that's when you realize that, okay, this is the payment plan that I can go for. Don't go for a loan or a top-up that you have to use all your salary to pay. How are you going to survive? And you go, okay, I can use 6 months to pay. I'm going to pay you 50 cedis, 100 cedis for 6 months. You'll be surprised at and you commit to it. So once your money comes, you quickly do the disbursement. And you'll be surprised that you will pay this money, and you wonder, how come I was so disciplined to pay? Don't go for a loan that you cannot pay, or you have to end up using 50% and above of your salary to pay. Plan it. Go ask for installments, and that is what will make your budget very visible.
Okay, please give me a moment to see if we still got Na on the line. Hi, Na.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I wanted to make a little contribution.
Please, by all
especially
means.
pertaining to our.
Now, please go ahead.
Okay, so a little contribution to our conversation.
Okay.
It's about our national service. I can't hear you.
So I'm not talking for you to hear yet. I'm actually listening to you, okay? So what you shouldn't do is don't listen to us on the television, okay? Listen to us on your phone. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's hear you.
So my little contribution is that, especially with the national service postings, we will be happy if we are posted to near our family house or near a family member, so that we don't end up spending money, paying huge amount of money for rent. That could also help us be able to budget and save more.
Let me ask a question. Let me ask you a question. Some years ago, if you're filling out the form, they would ask you, are you already working with an organization? And if you're lucky, they will just, post you to the organization that you're already working at. Do they still do that?
I don't think they still do that.
Oh, you're yet to do your national service?
No, I've already done my national service. But again, you see, now they make the national service cut across the whole country because of the past experience they had. People don't want to travel to the north and all that. So because of that, now they do it across the country. So somebody will be in a crime posted to Tamale or Wow or something. And here's the case, I don't even have any family there to accommodate me. I'm now going to pay rent and all that. So I think if they should go back to the old system where you be posted near your house, or again, as you said, the organizations where you are working with, that would help and will also help you to save more.
Okay, now that's a very very thoughtful comment there.
Is the posted near your house for me? No, no,
at
of
least
course
you didn't say
feasible.
to your house. You said near your house.
Near your house, It's not feasible. I don't think it's feasible now.
Okay, I mean, Jem, got anything to say?
Yeah, I'm doing a different side to this.
Okay.
In life, you don't get what you want. And I always say that if life gives you lemons, what do? You do lemonades with it. If you are posted beyond where you stay, what are the opportunities there? We are talking about personal budgeting. You know that your income is coming from national service. There could be an opportunity for you to look at a business. You've stayed somewhere, you've seen opportunities. When you relocate to a different place, you realize, wow, there's something I could be doing aside my national service since I have more time.
Yeah.
It could be a side business. You close early. You could even be bringing foodstuffs. You could even be, there's a lot of opportunities. So now, in life, you don't get what you want, but whatever you get, you'll be surprised that even after national service, you end up setting up a business that could even sustain you till you get. Most of us, we look at white-collar jobs, but what about the other jobs? So now, whilst we work at getting the systems in place to suit certain conditions, let us look at the situations that we find ourselves now and look out for opportunities. Then you'll be surprised that the postings that was done for you was rather a blessing for you.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, what would be the do's and don'ts if you're about, starting to write out your budget? What are the do's and don'ts?
Okay, thanks. So, MFA, don't think that a budget is strict, it's constant. That's where it scares a lot of people that, how can I stick to a plan? Even I am not able to organize. No, please, it is flexible. The budgeting doesn't end when you have the plan, which is the budget. You need to implement and revise it. So first, know that not cast in stones. Then also, be more realistic in your budgeting. Be more realistic. Don't say I'm going to save 50% of my national service allowance. Definitely, it is not right. So if you can save 5%, or even when you start at the beginning, there are rent and other expenses. So for the first 2 or 3 months, you cannot save. But since you know that subsequent ones you can stay, it is not cast in stone. And some people also say it's time consuming. It is not time consuming. And if I remember the budget we did for the guy, he just did the 5 minutes we are done. He puts it in his pocket. Don't think about any complicated tool. Don't think about any finance. No, it's in your own terms. Then also one thing you must know is never give up on your budget.
Okay.
So once it shows up that my budget is off, so let me just give up and on.
Okay. I mean, that's it for me, but I'm thinking, should you budget for, there's a term called yawabonting, like chilling. Yawabonting, like...
Sorry,
don't mind. Godwin, I'm asking this question.
We're outside. We're outside, baby. We're
Jem,
outside.
I'm not sure you may have heard it, but it is a reality. People are tired of staying at home. And you realize that you go out and you spend a lot of money more than you would have thought. And so knowing that you like to be in Abonting and have to go out to chill, should you budget for your chilling as well?
Of course, Godwin, you are not alone. Even me with all the family, you have to. And it shouldn't, what we call it is in your budget, you have an entertainment budget.
Okay.
Depending on your. So you know that for this month, I'm going to use 10% for entertainment. And even that's what you can even use to plan if it's a vacation you want to have. You don't wait to get a lump sum or you start earning a millionaire before you think of even a vacation. Let's start with the budgeting. And if you're allowed to go chill, but just try and stay within your budget. Okay. And like I said, put in controls. Once you are going there, is the money packed in your wallet? Is it on your card that you could easily spend, or you leave your card at home and take the money that you spend? Then you could really stay with it. Please budget for it and revise it as and when you spend.
Jemima, my last question would be, what do you say to, the Bible says, isn't Matthew or Mark, one of the Gospels, it says that do not worry about what you eat tomorrow or what you drink. It's the Bible. It's not me. That's what the Bible says. So what do you say to people of faith who go by the scripture who says that, nah, I'm not going to think about what tomorrow holds, what I'll wear tomorrow, because even the birds of the air do not sow, neither do they reap, but the Lord takes care of them. I'm asking this for men of faith, people of faith who go by, what the word says. What would you say to that?
But today you brought my children's service and Bible knowledge. So I said, in that same Bible, it's about faith without works being dead. So if you have faith that you will survive and not in the action, Charlie, how are you going to survive? So, the book of Proverbs also talks a lot about a wise man that always plans. So what I could say is the budget is a form, is how we start life. And whatever we start with, let us start with it and pray about it. Since you're a man of faith, then you see that you get somewhere. Because definitely the things are not going to get a little better in the interim. But what we hope for is, what lessons are we taking from these hard times? Okay. You start your budget, and when things get better, you could see that you already stuck to it. And you continue with it as a lifestyle.
Jemima.
Okay, Jemima. So as for me, the import of the message here is if you're budgeting and COVID-19 happens in your life, just know that you can just recalibrate and then you can still live your life. Okay.
Indeed.
Got a line? Any last questions?
No, please.
Okay, Jemima. Thank you. Financial gem, indeed. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot, and I know what I should be budgeting for. Mr. Nambo, you want to say thank you?
Thank you very much, Jemima Ochewa Tabi, for that education. We will do well to budget very well moving on. Thank you so much. Do you have any page or something if we want to ask you more questions or follow you?
Yes. So for my Finance Gem initiative, you can follow Finance Gem on all social media networks. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel where I have recordings on selected financial topics. The target audience are non-finance. I break it down into non-finance for everyone. Okay. So do follow Finance. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So for NSS, kindly go to LinkedIn, update your professional profile, and also follow Finance Gem there as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Have a lovely day, Jemima.
Thank you for joining us, Jemima. Guys, I wish we had this conversation like last week so that the Liverpool fans will budget for handkerchief, buckets they can weep in.
Are you guys not tired already?
And all that.
We are tired.